Hi, welcome to another discussion with New Jersey Forensic Accountant. Today we're going to discuss what's called value to the holder. Now, this is a very critical terminology used in a divorce when there's a small business. And when I discuss this with clients, it's usually a pretty difficult discussion because the first thing they say is, my business is worth nothing without me. And when I tell them, I say, listen, New Jersey is what's called an equitable distribution state, which means property acquired during the marriage must be divided in an equal manner. Now, this can be done voluntarily by agreement or by court order. So whatever they want to do, we can do, or the court can do. And this does not usually go too well because a lot of times what they'll tell me is say, listen, it's a difficult conversation with the client. They'll tell me if I leave my business tomorrow, there'll be no business. And it's true. I had a woman a couple months ago. The business was doing about $50 million in sales. And I told her, I said, this business was basically started during the marriage. It's going to be subject to equitable distribution. She said, listen, obviously I make a lot of money, but without me, the business is worth nothing. I said, listen, the courts have already dealt with this issue hundreds, if not thousands of times. And my business is worth nothing is not going to work. And I just want to have a little segue here. This is a great movie about divorces. If you're thinking about getting divorced, you may want to watch this movie with Kathleen Turner. So this is always a difficult conversation. So what I'm going to do is make this video and show them the video rather than go through it with them. But what the courts have said, and in Digan versus Digan, they say value to the holder is subject to equitable distribution. Okay. Now, this is a case that was tried a long time ago, okay, in 1983. So you're talking like 30, 40 years ago. Yeah, so let's say, wow, that is a lot, 37 years ago. So, and this case is cited all the time. And what this case basically does is the husband who owns a law firm, he basically says, listen, I have a law firm. You can't sell, and you couldn't sell a law firm, so therefore there's no business. And by the way, if I don't go into work tomorrow, there is no business. And he was absolutely right. There would be no business. But what the court said was, listen, obviously there's value to you in this business. Okay, let's say you're making $100,000 or $200,000 a year, and you're not going to be able to make that anywhere else. So there's value to you by continuing to work in this business. And that's where they get this term value to the holder. And basically what they said was it would be inequitable to ignore the contribution of non-attorney spouse to the development of the economic resource. So what they're saying here is, okay, in Digan, you went out and built this great law practice and you have a great reputation. He was doing a lot of injury work. And you made a lot of money because we could just look in your tax returns. You were making, and this is 1983, he was making a lot of money. So you were able to do that because, one, the wife was home taking care of the kids, taking care of things you needed. So she is entitled to a portion of the business. Now, we can't just say that you're not going to do the business anymore because there's value to the holder. And obviously, 99% of the time, the person who owns the business is going to continue with the business, right? So why wouldn't the spouse get a portion of that business at the time of divorce? Because all that goodwill that was built up during the marriage is going to continue on. And that's kind of what they said. Now, what I want to do now is just take a look at the case because case law is extremely important to judges and attorneys. And the reason case law is so important is because sometimes judges can go back and learn things from another judge that is applicable to this case. Now, my experience has been most of the stuff that attorneys and judges talk about in court is really not applicable to the case at hand. But this Digan versus Digan, it has some things in here that anybody who has a small business can look at it and say, hey, this makes sense. Obviously the spouse is entitled to a portion of the business. And here's the case here. And just to give you an idea of what they were talking about, this is some financial information that was submitted with the case. And remember, we're talking 37 years ago. They had some real property. A house was worth about $285,000. And the law practice was almost as much as the house. And here's the total equitable distribution. So you can see that this is a very important asset. And, if the spouse is not entitled to a portion of that, it really is not equitable, right? And that's what the court said. And here's kind of what the court was looking at. They were looking at goodwill. They call it goodwill. And what they're saying here is goodwill is to be differentiated from earning capacity. Okay, it reflects not simply a possibility of future earnings, but it's a probability based on existing circumstances. Okay, and here they talk about for the purpose of valuing goodwill of the law practice, because remember this case was about a law practice, the true enhancement to be evaluated is the likelihood of repeat patronage and certain degree of immunity from competition. So what the court is saying is, and this applies to any business, right? If you built this up, you're going to have repeat customers. You're going to be more efficient. You're going to make more money in the future, right? Because you spent that initial time building the practice up. So here they talk about, again, goodwill. Goodwill is generally regarded as a summation of all special advantages, not otherwise identifiable, relating to the going concern. Includes such items as a good name, capability of the staff, personal, high credit rating, right, reputation. All this stuff is goodwill. And let's say you spent 10 years building this company up. You're going to get a lot of these benefits in the future. And it just doesn't make sense that someone who helped you build this up would not be entitled to some of that future benefit. And that's where we come in as forensic accountants. We figure out at the date of divorce what the business is worth, and then the judge decides how much the wife is entitled to or the husband's entitled to. And this kind of summation of the whole case here, it says, after divorce, a law practice will continue to benefit from the goodwill as it had during the marriage. Much of the economic value produced during an attorney's marriage will be inherent in the goodwill of the law practice. It would be inequitable to ignore the contribution of the, here we go, non-attorney spouse, right? And it says here, even though they can't sell their law practice, there is equitable distribution. And, they're saying the spouse, in this case, is entitled to have the asset considered as any other property acquired during the marriage. And remember, just because we're talking about a law firm, any business you build up during the marriage, whether it's a consulting firm, a manufacturing company, anything, if you get divorced, this case is going to come into being. So when people tell me that my business is worth nothing without me, I just, go through this whole thing about that. I know what you're saying is true. If you didn't go to work tomorrow, you wouldn't make any money. But that's not how the court looks at it. They look at what you're going to make in the future. In all probability, that's what you will do. So listen, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, just leave a comment below. Me and one of my associates will get back to you. And if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, it'd be great. It helps us. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening.